Hello, everybody, and welcome to our after church tea time today. We will be sharing our sense of our lessons that we've learned from the sermon by Jose and Michaela on the topic of your gurus being God's gift to enlighten your path. And yeah, so I'm Granville Campbell, and Nadia's joining me today. And yeah, we're going to just go through some of our takeaways from today's sermon. So Nadia, what did you bring for after church tea time? I brought water.
Not water.
Brilliant.
I was not feeling tea or coffee today, so I was like, no, I'm just gonna drink some water.
Yeah, I also just brought water. I just actually had tea before after church tea time. Cool. So yeah, what do you feel like was your primary takeaway from today's sermon?
One thing that's coming into my heart is when Jose was saying that there's a huge mountain that we must overcome when reaching harmonious twin flame union and in connecting with God. And to recognize that our gurus had dedicated their lives to reaching that connection and that purification. And to have someone that dedicated their lives to this and have them as their life purpose to guide us is just so, one, I'm so appreciative, and two, it's just so magnificent. Like everyone needs someone who practices in such a way that they can guide us. And I remember like growing up Muslim, we would always go to the mosque and we would go to the imam for direction and guidance. And there's no difference in going to our gurus for guidance and for direction because they're the ones who dedicated their lives to give us that guidance and give us that connection even stronger with God. So yeah, when he said that, I was like, it's so true that we get that. And we get it in such a way. I've never felt so close to a guru in such a way. They make it so that we're familiar with them. We are able to ask them questions. And it's just very friendly. And the gurus that I've known of and like have seen on YouTube and learned from, they're either standoffish or like they don't get as close to their community, as close to their right hand, left hands as our gurus have. And another example that I'm thinking of is like the fact that Jeff gave us a budget, like how to budget our finances, how to build your dream body. Like, who does that? Who sends us PDFs to just change our lives on top of the body of work that they've created that is just complete? So they're always expanding and helping us expand. And it's just, I'm very grateful.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. Like as you were talking, I was just like feeling into it and thinking about that very important component of how the guru actually shows up in your life and what they do, and literally the connection you were speaking to. And yes, it's something that probably stands out quite a bit for me in the sense that like you can comfortably sit back and comfortably say, actually, I'm not doing this alone. And I feel like there's this point at which we almost learn through our lives to do things alone. And then we start to join this community and we start to connect with each other and we realize that we don't have to do it alone. And the cementing, or even just almost building the connection and understanding that there's no real aloneness in this space just makes it different and makes you understand, well, it makes me understand the concept of healing separation very practically in terms of realizing, well, actually, I'm not doing this alone. And literally, it's what Jose and Michaela spoke to in terms of you have to learn. You need to find a teacher in your journey. So, and then the example they used was around a brain surgeon, and in this sermon, they used that example. And I think it's a very practical, also pragmatic approach to saying, remember how you learned everything else. You didn't just absorb information or knowledge through osmosis. You didn't put your hand in water and absorb knowledge. You didn't put your hand into the sky and breathe in knowledge. You learned. And I think that's probably the greater part of this journey, is becoming comfortable with learning again, becoming comfortable with allowing ourselves to be students, which will allow us and help us allow ourselves to learn from our guru. Because it as you said, as you grow up, you see examples of various spiritual teachers, and some of them are a lot more removed than others, and some of them will give you advice that may be practical in their lives and might not translate into your life really well. And what works with our community and with Jeff and Shaleia is that they give us the teaching, but they're also very open to sharing their journey as they go along, sharing the lessons that they're learning, sharing how their journey is unfolding, which makes it more real. It's a much more real space to be in, because we get not only are we getting the teachings, but we're also getting more real-time learning, which for me works a lot better than if somebody said to me, here's a stack of books and you go and read that stack of books, and Bob's your uncle, you crack on with yourself. I feel like there's this whole evolution of learning and the journey that Jeff and Shaleia share with us, but that also the community shares with each other. So we're all growing together in our various ways. We're all seeing how people's journeys are unfolding, and there's a lot of sharing happening, and there's a lot of resonance in what people share. And like even when we have our sermons, like there's always a nugget for you at that time. Like I've never been part of an after church tea time where it wasn't super relevant to me at the time that I was participating. And and that is probably the more real-time aspect for me. Like it's much more practical, it's much more pragmatic. There's a realness to it, there's a connection to it, but the core of it, I feel like literally, truly starts to help me understand what healing separation actually means, because there's never any aloneness. You might be, your path might be unfolding in different ways to other people's paths, but the core learnings and the core lessons that we go through, that we share with each other, generally seem to be almost a collective learning at any given point in time.
Very true. And I'm glad you brought that up about loneliness, because ever since I moved here, moved back to New York, I felt so lonely, thinking like, wow, my family hasn't really reached out to me, and we haven't really connected how we used to. And I was like, why is that? Like, why has things changed so drastically? And I'm sure, of course, because of the teachings, because of me changing, it's like difficult for others to relate to me in such a way. And it brought me back to what I was experiencing yesterday. So Yesterday, I went out with my cousin for the first time in months. Like, I haven't really been socializing with family. And what I experienced was just a lot of complaining and just a lot of suffering and misery. And I had a whole headache the entire time. And as soon as I got home, I was like, I need to turn on TFAST and I need to ground into my community because although I felt so alone, I felt even lonelier meeting up with my cousin than I did like all this time thinking like, wow, what happened to my family? What happened to my friends? Like, no, I've actually grown in my um like community within my heart so much so that I can't even relate to that sense of complaining and misery. And it was just really beautiful to ground back into my community and feel not alone and get that perspective like, no, I'm really not alone. Mm, yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that also stood out for me in the sermon, that was probably as part of the intro, was just the sense that you can heal anything through the mirror
Yeah.
exercise. And I think that has been quite a profound process of movement from, as you say, that connection to suffering and complaining, and literally, that woe is me energy that was giving you a headache.
Yeah.
Because, I also experienced it a little bit, as I was starting to heal. I was like, also, I just actually cannot connect to people in their trauma bonding anymore. And I find that with our community, the nice thing is, like, the one thing we're going to encourage each other is not to trauma bond and not to have that codependence of relating within pain.
Yeah.
And this community has been just a testament as it's grown, and kind of there's been changes in people and stuff like that. It's just a testament to actually learning so well that we realize where something doesn't resonate with our spirits anymore.
Mhm.
And I have found a lot of places where, like, the relationships just evolve. And it's not because of us feeling like we're superior to anybody. It's that as we purify our consciousness through Jeff and Shaleia's teachings, and through learning and through doing the mirror exercise, there's just things that just do not resonate with us. And it becomes very uncomfortable to try
Yeah.
and relate within the pain.
Mhm.
I think that's kind of just been the learning of truly connecting to the true spirit of the teachings, and then that the teachings are grounded in love. And so anything that doesn't feel loving will it automatically not resonate with us any longer. And so it is more difficult. In fact, it's not even difficult. It's just not necessary to relate to people in those spaces where it doesn't resonate with love anymore. Because literally, that's the reason why it feels uncomfortable, that it doesn't resonate with love. And the core of the teaching here, the core of the work that Jeff and Shaleia have built is within love, within loving yourself, within loving God, within loving yourself, and then within loving other people. And so I feel like, just again, I'm always reminded of and it came through the sermon again. It's just, we called in the teachers that we needed for this journey in our lives. And I appreciated when Jose Michaela shared in the sermon that, you called in the teachers, and they are serving their purpose, and God presented them to us because we called them in. And so it is important to now honor that connection and honor that relationship. And yeah, it's just like, and as I said, it's always resonant, and it's just like something that Jeff pointed out to me in terms of some of the work that we're doing with Divine Gaming. And he pointed out something that I needed to heal through in terms of the relationship. But again, it's like what you say, like they take the time to point you to the place where you need the healing. And they don't have to do that, but they choose to connect in that way. And so it's easy for us to reciprocate that choice. And sometimes they're not going to tell you the nicest, easiest, most comfortable thing. But once you heal through it, it doesn't really feel so horrible anymore. Like that's the place where the pain was. And literally, it's about extracting the pain and bringing love there. But you have to be open to the teaching. You have to be open to allowing the learning to come through. And it's something that was shared in the sermon as well, is the humility. The humility is going to be the thing that helps you progress faster than if you were resistant.
Yeah, and it definitely takes practice, because your guru will pick at where you need to show love to yourself. And if you don't have practice in standing your ground and not choosing ego, it's very easy to jump back into that old pattern, old belief. And so it takes a lot of practice, like Michaela was saying about becoming a brain surgeon. It takes a lot of mastery to get to that point of really grounding into this new reality, grounding into that choice. And another thing is like humility. I know I had a struggle with humility when I was working with my life purpose. And my guru Jeff had said, surrender, humility, and ground. And just like Michaela and Jose said, if God is telling you something, just try it out. See how love like unfolds for you. See how Guru's advice unfolds for you. And I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And so I did for like weeks. I was like, I choose to ground. I choose to be humble. I choose to surrender. After doing that, I got such an amazing job that I never would have imagined me getting. I thought like, okay, of course I'll get a job and I'll have to move towards the next one and the next one. But the miracles that are ready for you to unfold once you surrender to the teachings, you wouldn't even be able to imagine. So I really appreciate their advice, and for them to tell me to practice humility actually taught me about self-worth. Like me being humble taught me more about self-worth than like anything else. So it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has been definitely an interesting journey in terms of learning for me as well. And I think for me, the biggest thing has been about learning. It's about unlearning some of the things that I previously learned and relearning some of the things that resonate with me more. And I feel like the biggest learning for me has been to ground into myself. But not grounding into myself in a way that says this is me, and you can go fly a kite, the kind of this is me. It's like grounding into myself and really uncovering the truth about who I am at the core. And that has been the work that has come through in following Jeff and Shalea's teachings, and through working with a coach and being part of this community. It's kind of just allowing myself to let go of the things that weren't really me, that I probably layered over myself in terms of protection mechanisms or any other weird or wonderful thing that might not have been the core of who I am. And I think it's still kind of a journey of learning. And so, you know, when Jose Michaela was sharing around Yogananda's wisdom in terms of almost the gap between where we are and where God is probably quite a lengthy time, and that your guru helps you to bridge that gap at a faster pace. And I feel like Jeff and Shaleia do that quite a bit, not only in their teachings, but in how they relate with us. They always point us back to ourselves, to where we need to bring love to that place, to remember how close we really are to God. And sometimes it's not that even that we've gone away, it's just that we don't remember it anymore. And so their teachings and the way they interact with us always directs us back to that point, which literally clarifies the path again. And, you know, I worked through something with Alexandra around some of the feedback that Jeff gave me. And, you know, something that she said to me was, you know, Jeff and Shaleia give people what they're asking for at any given time. And sometimes that what they are giving you you might not appreciate it as a gift at the time. And it might sometimes feel uncomfortable, but it's perfectly relevant. It's perfectly relevant if you choose to be humble and accept the gift, accept the love that's being presented to you. And I think for me, my journey, my ascension journey is about reconnecting with love. But that only comes from having walked the path and realizing where it's taking me to, where it's leading me to. And that requires humility. That requires that I suspend previous thought processes and look at what's being presented. Because what's being presented might not be the thing that you think should be presented to you at the time.
Yeah, very true. And I wanted to bring it back to the card reading as well, because Mina showed us an evolution of going from within a cave in loneliness all the way to an abundant and fruitful life. And it reminded me of a class that Jeff was teaching, I think in Life Purpose. And he said, how much richer do I have to become for you to realize that this shit works, you know? For you to realize that like, this is gonna help you. And it's so true, like, and he was even saying like, I'll get richer, but you know, it's up to you to either follow in the teachings and believe what I'm saying, or just keep testing it, keep saying like, well, let's see how far he goes. Let's see how this will go after a month or so, you know? So it was funny in a sense that, yeah, it's so true. Like his life has evolved, their life has evolved. Miraculously, grace has come. And we don't need any more examples to tell us. Even in our own life, like each mirror exercise gives us such a relief that we can tell that it makes a big difference. We may not be in harmonious union at this moment, but we know that that's where we're headed. We know that this path is inevitable because of the teachings. And we can definitely ground into that and have confidence in our gurus that they will take us home. They'll definitely take us home.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something quite important in the sense that they present the example to us all the time. Literally, there's no one time where you can almost say, I'm not clear. I'm not sure what's happening here. Like, it's very clear, the progression. You can see the change in them. You can see the change in the community. You can see the change in yourself. And so, it's good to be reminded that as you see all these things happening, you can choose to trust it and follow in that example. But and you don't have to do exactly the same as anybody else ever, because that's not your path. That's their path. But you can choose to learn the lesson and learn the truth and align to the love in that space in your life. And I think, we laugh at it because it's so obvious, but sometimes we're also the people that have to be reminded that it's so obvious.
Yes.
So it was just a good reminder in the sermon to release the resistance, release the clinging to the resistance, and allow ourselves to surrender in that space, and also to relax into that space. Because I feel like sometimes my lesson is just take a chill pill. Like, sometimes I expect things to happen too quickly, and sometimes I have to go through the mess. But the healing through the mess is literally my path.
Yeah.
That is the thing that I've realized, is that it's only unclear because I need to heal through certain things. But the path doesn't necessarily not exist. And I think that's literally what Jeff and Shaleia have shown us over and over and over and over again, that your path exists. You kind of need to surrender into the love on that path. And it's something that Jose and Michaela shared. Is like, as you work through and heal through, there's always only more love waiting on the other side. But again, it requires your humility to heal to that point, so that you can accept the love waiting on the other side.
Mhm. And something that you brought up about my path is not your path, and our guru's path is not our path as well. And I had a struggle with that because I used to think like, well, Jeff and Shaleia stayed in the ghetto for a long time, so maybe I need to stay in the ghetto for a long time, and like this is how I learned. This is how I'm supposed to go through things. But if Jeff and Shaleia heard my thinkings, they would be like, no, the whole purpose of them going through their path was to give us the teachings and make it easier for us. And I was like thinking the opposite, like, no, they suffered, so I have to suffer. And this is how I learned. And it's not the case at all. And in fact, it gives us even more clarity and ease that we can go through it and we can manifest even faster than they may have, because they grounded into those teachings, and that's what they want for us. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's cool, and it's a good thing that we're highlighting this, because I think it's something that also has come out in the sermon, is just that relationship with suffering, and it's something that we probably heal through over and over and over again, and it's not something that we have to experience ourselves. You don't, like, literally, some things you just don't have to experience certain things to know that they're not good for you.
Yeah.
Like, if the desire in your heart is that you don't want that crap in your life, then choose the desire that is good in your life. Choose the path that is helpful in your life. We don't have to learn through suffering.
Yeah, we don't. We really don't. And you hone in on that message to me a lot. And I'm like, yes, you're right. You're right. And then like I go back.
You know why I do it is because it's something that I have worked on quite a bit in like just healing past some of the kind of wonky bricks in my foundation. And it's literally that every time I do, I just feel the foundation kind of smoothing out more easily. and realizing that the foundation is there. It just requires unearthing certain things that do not belong there, that were never really purposeful, that were never really helpful. And that literally is a testament to being able to heal anything with the mirror exercise. It's like, it's just, and literally some things are roots, some things are rooted, and so it takes a little bit more work. But again, there is a foundation. It's not like there's no foundation and we have to start from scratch. We have to just kind of appreciate the good that's there and heal the things that don't belong there.
Just weeding out the garden, clearing it out. And some things might be deeply rooted and need consistent uprooting, but it just takes practice, and it really takes devotion for yourself, devotion for your highest and greatest good. Because if you're dedicated to yourself, if you're dedicated to God, this will be your path, and the teachings of Guru will resonate with you, and you would want to follow this path.
Awesome. I think with that feels like a good place to wrap up. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel good.
Awesome. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you to everybody else that has joined us. Also, please feel free to like and subscribe to our Church of Union YouTube channel, where you will find all our previous after church tea times and any other live conversations that we've had in our Unionism Spiritual Discussion group on Facebook. And we look forward to seeing all of you again soon. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.